Hi, everybody. Mitch Tannenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today for the Security News Update. In the security and privacy alerts world, we have an interesting one. People are familiar with IoT, Internet of Things, and people are familiar with it in the context of things like Siri and Alexa. But in the industrial world, there's a lot of Internet of Things devices as well. They're called IIoT, a very creative name. And, that could be, for example, the electronic controls to a dam or a power plant or a natural gas plant or something like that. So in this particular case, there's a dam in Norway. Hackers broke into it. I had no clue how easy or difficult that was. And they just opened the dam valves fully. Now, the good news was in this particular case, it was a small dam, wasn't a large amount of water, and nobody died as a result. But the point is, the bad guys got in, and worse yet, they weren't detected for hours. And I think we're going to continue to see these and more of these things because the Internet of Things, cybersecurity is really not great. HP Enterprise and Juniper reached a deal with the Department of Justice, and it's a pretty wimpy deal as far as I'm concerned, but they have to do a little bit of machinations to get it approved. But basically, it's approved. It's going to be probably help for both Juniper and HPE. Juniper's revenue is about 10% of Cisco. So, they're still a small player, but by joining those two together, they have access to all of the HP enterprise customer base. So that's probably a good thing. And they have to make some minor divestiture to get that done. And that's been kind of HP's history is they grow by acquisition as opposed to, organically trying to figure out how to do it themselves. In the CMMC world, the question that I'm going to focus on today is, do all of my suppliers need to be CMMC certified? The answer is no. That's the short answer, or you could say it depends, but really no. And it really depends on what you share with them, and to the degree that you cannot share DoD information with them. If you're buying bolts and the bolts are standard bolts, or you can tell them what you want without revealing specific things about how they're going to be used in your contract. They don't need to be certified, but you do need to know, you need to have an accurate list of your suppliers, and you do need to know who needs to be certified and who's not, and we can help you with that. In the reference department, article on AI lawsuits explained that they're fast and furious, and mostly they're coming from the content creators that are concerned that AI is basically stealing their content and butchering it. And I think that's probably a fair assessment. AI is good, but you really, really need to verify what they're doing. So either side of that, if you're a user or content creator, learning more about what AI is doing, what it should be doing, what it shouldn't be doing is probably a good thing. In the software and hardware to check out department, Microsoft announced a preview beta version of Windows, which will eliminate kernel access, both ability and requirement, for a large number of security vendors. This comes after the CrowdStrike meltdown that took down the airline industry. People like Delta were down for a week. And they said there's got to be a better way. And so this is just a beta, so we got to remember that. But this is a start. And so hopefully if we can get people out of the kernel, we can stop Windows from crashing either by good guys or by bad guys. In the legal department, in the Trump's new tax and spend bill, there was a provision that would ban state-level AI legislation for 10 years. Apparently, the only people who liked that were the AI providers because they didn't want anybody telling them what to do. That's gone. So now expect to see more state-level AI laws, and the ones that are already there are going to continue to remain in effect. Because remember, one of the features of the ban was that it would neuter any of the existing laws. So that's not going to happen. We have the Q-Day. Q-Day is sometimes called the quantum apocalypse. And Wired did a great article on it, talking about what it means. And fundamentally, Um, you know, nobody really knows when it's going to happen, and when it happens, it's probably going to be because Russia, China, and us, the spy guys are going to have figured it out, and they're not going to tell anybody about it because there's zero incentive to tell anybody. In fact, a lot of negative incentive. Um, but people are a decade away from being able to use quantum resistant encryption, and a lot of people are saying Q-Day is going to be here long before then. So, what happens in Q-Day? Well, taking down the financial system, emptying your bank account, and exposing anything that you didn't want exposed. Because remember what everybody's doing now, everybody, us included, is collecting all this stuff that we can't decrypt now, knowing that in a couple of years we'll be able to decrypt it. Also remember that Bitcoin wallet that you have either in the cloud or on your phone or whatever. That's going to be useless because the encryption in that is going to be uh, easily crackable. The only Bitcoin wallet that's going to be safe is the one that is literally not online. So if you have one that you use manually and you literally type in the characters, then you're probably okay. Other than that, not so much. In the breaches department, the Australian Qantas disclosed that it detected a cyber attack. This is one more time, and this is what Scattered Spider, who's the hacking group, and Scattered Spider is not China, it's not Russia, it's good old European and American folks, and apparently pretty smart. They are going after the weak spot. And the weak spot is all of these third-party suppliers that everybody's dependent on who have horrible security. The good news is this particular supplier didn't have credit card data, didn't have bank account data. So from that perspective, at least, what they stole was relatively mild. The Department of Justice raided 29 laptop farms. And what a laptop farm is a mechanism, and the article talks more about it, a mechanism that allows them, in particular North Koreans, to masquerade as Americans and get jobs at American companies and get money from American companies and sabotage those companies. We've had people come to us and tell us, that they think they've been a victim of this and what should they do. It's a little tough, but it's doable in terms of dealing with it. But this particular laptop farm shows how widespread the problem is. They said over 100 companies were affected by this little bit, two different raids they did, one late last year and one early this year. And, how many IT employees, unclear. They only arrested 29 people because most of the perpetrators are out of the country. They're in North Korea. And that this allows North Korea to not only steal information and sell it or use it, but also it allows North Korea to get revenue back to North Korea, because they're under all these sanctions. So if you hire remote workers without physically seeing them in the office, you should definitely talk to us if you don't have a good, strong plan for how you're going to manage that. Cloudflare is kind of giving the Supremes a bit of the finger. The Supreme Court last week said that AI companies can steal your data at will, scraping your website, stealing your books and your articles and magazines. That's all fair use. Cloudflare has decided that as a result of that decision, that they're just going to block AI bots by default from your site. Now, there's a potential downside there, and you can turn it off if you want to, but the default is going to be on. And so, the chat GPT and all those different bots are, assuming you use Cloudflare and assuming you don't turn off the default, they're not going to be able to scrape your website. Of course, this only affects the tens of millions of people that are Cloudflare customers, but there is a free tier of Cloudflare. If you have a simple website, the free tier works just fine. So, if you have a more complicated one, you may need to pay for it. But if that's something you're concerned about, then that's something that's available. And if you're using AI, and everybody I think does, should you trust it? No. Should you verify it? Yeah. Should you use it? Absolutely. I mean, you can't not use it. But Google says its own AI overview gives incorrect answers more than 60% of the time. So less than half the time, the answers that they give you are right. Now, that isn't a wake-up call. I don't know what is, but that's a real problem. And, like I said, if you use AI, you need to factor that into the equation. In the news bites, another text message or email kind of scam is a fake um, DMV text scams, and they're threatening you that you're going to lose your license, you're going to go to jail, you're going to pay big fines. None of those are true. Just click on this link and pay us money, and you're paying the hackers money. So TikTok and Meta tried to avoid a wrongful death lawsuit. They have these dangerous activity shorts where people do really, really stupid things. In this case, two kids, and one of them died. Got on top of a subway car on the Brooklyn Bridge, I think it was, and fell off and obviously killed themselves. So Meta said, well, everybody knows you shouldn't do that. Well, if you shouldn't do it, then why are you letting these videos on your website? So the court said you can try to prove wrongful death. That's a long ways from actually saying that they're guilty, but they just wanted it dismissed. In controlled experiments, AI, and this is a controlled experiment, so don't read into more than it is. Microsoft ran a test with an AI, and AI was more accurate at predicting the diagnosis than doctors were, dramatically, like 80% right for the AI, 20% right for the doctor. But these are cases that were written up in medical journals. So Microsoft doesn't know exactly what they're going to do with this now, but the next step would be to do some kind of clinical trial where you're doing it in a less controlled environment to see whether the numbers are really still as good as that. Qualcomm, who makes chips for many phones, but Android phones in particular, fixed 3 0 days that are being exploited. Now you have to wait for your phone vendor to release those, but those 0 days are being exploited, and now as a result of this being announced, they'll really be exploited. Um, and lastly, the EU appeals court in Brussels said that tracking-based online ads are illegal because the way they work, which is interesting, most people aren't aware of it. So when you have ads, what the website does is they send out your personal data to thousands of potential buyers, and those buyers look at you and decide whether you are a good candidate for their product. And if you are, then they bid for the ad. Whoever bids the most money wins. And this literally happens in real time in a fraction of a second. But they're saying that that's not meaningful disclosure to people. People don't really understand what's going on. So I'm sure, the Metas and the Twitters of the world will appeal that, but at least right now, the appeals court said not so much. And lastly, if you use industrial Internet of Things devices in your world and you are worried about the security, which you should be worried about the security, then please contact us and we'll be happy to help you work on that. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Thanks for listening.